Stereoisomers is a concept that relates to how you may have a molecule that has the exact same number of elements, and I alluded to this earlier. For example, the sugars, right? You have a classical formula of the six carbons, and then you have 12 hydrogens, and then you have 6 oxygens. And because of the same formula, you can have a variation of how they spatially lay out. And glucose, galactose, fructose are all the same chemical formula, but because of the different spatial arrangements, glucose and fructose, they have completely different transport channels into your cell. So the fructose channel is different than the glucose transporter. So technically, if you ate a lot of fruit sugars and a lot of glucose sugars, they don't compete for the same entry into your cells. So we're going to transition this into, of course, the first type of macro, which is carbs. And nobody here probably doesn't like carbs. The carbohydrates is this hydrophilic organic molecule that generally will have a chemical formula of CH2 with an oxygen, and then the number of this will vary depending on what type of sugar it is. Where this N molecule, this N subscript, is going to be the number of carbon atoms. It could vary. Some of them are very long chains, polymers. Some of them are more simple. And this is the root word for sugars is saccharide or sac. And then whenever you end the suffix with the ose, like glucose, fructose, it's a sugar. Simple sugars are pretty straightforward, right? You eat this. Other kinds of macros like protein and lipid can also be interconverted when you have access of it. So it's not to say that, oh, if I'm only eating protein, I'm not getting any sugar. No, not the case. Your body can convert the different kinds of macros into glucose for energy, like fructose, glucose, galactose, and you take them together and you glue them and you make them into a disaccharide. That means you have 2 of them, which then creates a bigger chain, a double chain sugar, a sucrose, a maltose, or a lactose. So here's a picture of some of these sugars: glucose, galactose, fructose. You don't need to draw them, but just look at, you can see if you count them, they're the exact same formula, but the spatial arrangements are very different. So over here, you can see fructose is a very different structure than glucose. And the polysaccharides are a longer chain of glucose. Examples like human physiology include glycogen, that's the one related to humans, highly branched, probably even more branched than some of the starch, depending on how it gets stored. You have cellulose that's found inside this plant cell wall. These are the ones that are non-digestible, aka fiber, that you eat from vegetables. In other forms of species, you might have chitin, the ones found as the exoskeleton for arthropods. But the point here is that carbohydrates are a source of energy that can be quickly mobilized, and there's a lot of chains. They could get glued together, and when you need them, you can break these bonds, and then you can allow it to be freed out.